A college football weekend in the books without the Huskers. We feeling better or worse?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today.
All right, what a weekend it was in college football. Hello, welcome to the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. It was the best weekend of the year to date, in my opinion,
Definitely.
Connor, and not just because we had the opportunity with Nebraska on a bye to sit down and watch all of the games. Just great action from the early games with Illinois walking off SC on a field goal to those dramatic wins by Indiana at Iowa, Ole Miss at home against LSU in the afternoon, and then amazing road victories by Oregon at Penn State and Alabama at Georgia in what were ultra intense college football atmospheres at night on Saturday.
Yeah, great weekend. Like you said, a lot sort of happened in the Big Ten. Some moving and shaking a little bit at the top, and I know we're gonna talk about some of these things, in these teams individually as we go on throughout the show today. But tough look for Penn State. There's no shame in losing to Oregon off the face, but you had a golden opportunity and wasted it. Impressive stuff by Ohio State going on the road and getting that job done, and then Illinois with the nice bounce back as well. UCLA continues to find the pit of despair. I don't think they found the bottom yet. They lost to Northwestern over the weekend, if anybody was paying attention to that. So yeah, a lot happened in the conference. We didn't even mention Indiana and Iowa either. We'll get to all of those.
Yeah, there were a bunch of did you see that moments too from the weekend, starting on Friday night when Virginia upset Florida State in double overtime and had the most energetic field rush I think I've ever seen happen.
They were on the field. They were on the field like several minutes prior, and then when the ball, when it was finally over, I can't remember what the last play was, but it
was an incomplete pass in the end zone. Yeah,
ball hit the ground, and not a half second later, everyone was on the field. Excellent job.
I mean, the students were. You're right. They were lining the basically right on the edge of the out of bounds behind the end zone. And along, I don't know how they got there and how the security allowed them to get there. Virginia did take a big fine, of course, from the ACC, but they'll gladly pay that for getting a win against the top 10 opponent. So that was the first of what were a number of those moments that I think you'll remember at the end of the year that happened in week 5. And we're going to spend the third segment of this show after we break down a little bit more of what this week looks like in Lincoln on those moments. But right here and right now, we want to look a little bit at what happened with the teams that are on Nebraska's schedule. Nebraska has 8 games left starting Saturday against Michigan State. What happened with those opponents and this week, and how that might affect the Huskers schedule, how you might look differently or not differently at what Nebraska has left. So the next 2 foes for Nebraska, Michigan State and Maryland, were off like the Huskers. And then of the other 6, only Minnesota, which beat Rutgers by a field goal in Minneapolis, and Northwestern, the aforementioned win against another Nebraska opponent, UCLA, in Chicago, won over the weekend. All 4 of Nebraska's November opponents, USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa, lost in week 5. So I will ask, does the rest of Nebraska's schedule look different to you now after what you saw on Saturday?
Yeah, I always like doing this exercise because I'm like the exact wrong person to ask this question, because I'm just really like, I just don't get out over my skis on one team one way or the other. Like, I think it's the think it's the baseball background in me. Like I need just a way bigger sample size before I make any sort of proclamations about anybody.
It's like 8% of their season each week.
I know it's like, I don't know. My brain is just wired in that way. So I just am unwilling to ride the roller coaster with like, oh, is Iowa must be really bad this year. Wait, they only lost to Indiana by a touchdown. Maybe they're good again. Like I just am not moving off really much. It's so no, my answer to your question, Mitch, is not really. I don't think much has really changed. I still think Nebraska's schedule is super manageable. And I think it'd be difficult for any one game to affect the way I feel about any one of these teams. But that's just the way.
Yeah. Well, it's good that we're having this conversation because we balance each other out, since I like to wildly overreact to everything that I saw on any one Saturday, and now make the proclamation that Nebraska should sweep November because of what I saw in the Big Ten this last week. No, I don't think that, but there are a lot of flawed teams out there in the Big Ten, and Nebraska's playing a bunch of them. Like they're teams that you wouldn't want to play at this stage, obviously Oregon and Ohio State, and they're not on Nebraska's schedule.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like stuff that we've picked up from now, like this whole middle of the Big Ten. Like if you separate after, in no order, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State at the top of the league, and you kind of have a separator after that, you're looking for your fourth best team. You're looking for that fourth college football playoff contender. Last week you would have told me certainly after Indiana beat the crap out of Illinois, you would have said, oh, that team is obviously Indiana. Maybe you don't think that anymore. Or maybe you still do. But I do. When you have that middle portion of the league, so I think Indiana is there, Illinois is there, USC is there. I think Nebraska's in that conversation. I think Washington's in that conversation, and maybe you could start to look at some other teams after that as well. Like you said, everybody's got flaws. It's nice to sit back and watch everybody else. You kind of get to nitpick them and you get to watch them. Like USC's defense sucks. That truly, I mean, but I thought that, and Illinois is probably not as tough, as I thought they were. Everybody kind of gave them credit for being the ground and pound sort of tough team. I think they have to win games in a little bit of a different way. Indiana, nice job by that. Did I say Indiana? I meant Illinois.
No, you said Illinois.
Yeah, Indiana is, I think they deserve a lot of credit for winning a game the way they did.
Yeah,
on the road at Iowa on Saturday. So little stuff like that you pick up. But I do think the middle is pretty soft in the Big Ten, and by soft I mean gettable for a team like Nebraska.
In some ways, Indiana's win at Iowa, where the Hoosiers had to play a full 4 quarters. They were still playing the game after the clock ran out. It was 0-0 and the game was still going on, and shockingly somehow in doubt, as we'll discuss in the third segment of the show today. The fact that Indiana did that after what the Hoosiers did a week ago against Illinois 63-10 is even more impressive. Like you can have a game at home that just gets out of hand. We saw it when Nebraska went to Bloomington last year, and then it happened to Brett Bielema's team. Like that's impressive for sure, but I don't know what it really tells you about your team's toughness and ability to go and do it, because you're going to play close games. Like Indiana's not going to go through the whole season without playing close games, and winning 63-10 or 56-17 like it did against the Huskers doesn't really tell you about how you're going to respond in close games. And I don't know that we ever really learned that about Indiana last year. There was Michigan. Something toward Michigan.
They had a Michigan game that ended. I mean, it was exactly like this game against Iowa. It was 20-15. I'm pretty sure was the final score. And it was, it opens your eyes because they were able to win both of these games, but clearly if there's a way to get Indiana, that's the way to do it. Rock fight.
It was 20-15.
Rock fight. You just possess and possess and possess and possess. And you minimize their opportunities. So that's how you do it. I think it's created a blueprint for other teams. Now Oregon's not going to take the blueprint because they play Oregon in a couple weeks, and they're not going to be slowing anybody down. So that's where they roll. As
the Iowa Indiana game came to an end, as it started to wind down, and it was 13-13, and Mark Gronowski, the Iowa quarterback, is on the bench, and some guy named Hank Brown is running the Iowa offense. And I was pretty sure that Iowa was going to win the game. Like Iowa was going to find a way to win a rock fight. Just like you said, minimizing possessions and just doing Iowa stuff. And they had an interception of Fernando Mendoza and took it back into scoring range. And it's like, well, here they go. They're going to kick a field goal and win this thing 16-13. I've seen this game. I see this game every year on Black Friday. And he missed the field goal. And then Mendoza made a play where he hit a receiver in stride. It was a zero blitz and boom, touchdown. And of course, Iowa had no chance to go march the field with its backup quarterback and tie the game. That to me, wow. So what I was going to say, as Iowa was in position to win, there were a lot of people in the Big Ten who were getting ready to think, but would not admit that Curt Cignetti in Indiana deserved to have this happen to them. And then it didn't happen to them. Like that, who wanted that to happen to them, wanted Indiana to have like the quintessential Big Ten moment for any team not named Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. Like you part of your initiation, Curt Cignetti, into the Big Ten is you're supposed to lose a rock fight at Iowa, and he pulled it off. It didn't happen. He escaped.
They're blessed in that way, I guess. They just,
hey, they're well coached and they execute. They
just so happen to catch Iowa in the year where they have problems with their special teams situation. I mean, it's not quite like it's the same Iowa team as it regularly is, I think. But they got problems with their field goals.
Drew Stevens, it's the same kicker. It's the same kicker who beat Nebraska the last 2 years.
They got a snap hold situation. Yeah. Their operation is bad. It's like Nebraska's last year.
Yeah.
Maybe not that.
All right. Well, I mean, Penn State looked human, but I don't think that matters at all for what happens when Nebraska goes to Penn State. Minnesota, they look very beatable, but that's going to be a tough game for Nebraska on a Friday night in Minneapolis. So UCLA's bad. USC, I mean, same thing could happen to the Trojans when they come to Lincoln. It's probably going to be a close game, and we'll see if Nebraska can make the plays at the end like Illinois did. So in essence, even though I tend to overreact to things that happen on a week-by-week basis, I don't look at November or the rest of October being all that much different for Nebraska than what I thought going into the weekend.
Yep. All right, we'll take a quick timeout. We'll jump into a little bit of the Nebraska side and how they compare. Also some things that happened over the weekend. We'll be back after this. But first, a word from our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. Love how portable they are. You know what I'm talking about. The little 5 Hour Energy shots. Big taste, tiny shot. You could take it anywhere and get that boost exactly when you need it. And there's plenty of flavors for you as well. You could grab your flavor depending on what season it is, what the weather is outside. You never know what the weather is when you're going to be in October in the state of Nebraska. Maybe it's summer, maybe it's winter. There is options for you in that regard. So enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine flavor an upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online, www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Nebraska got a couple days to rest and recharge, although I did see a few Huskers in a float, of quote unquote, a float in a parade in Omaha over the
in their jerseys. Yes.
In their jerseys. Yeah, cool.
See TJ Lateef, he was living it up, sitting on the back of a float with Bud Crawford.
Yeah. Do you think there was a whole bunch of, I didn't go to the parade. Did you think that there was a whole bunch of people yelling at him, "Hey, TJ, I think you should be the guy, man.
You're the starter. You're the man. You're the man.
How you run. It's great. It reminds me of the olden days.
Yes, I do think that.
Me too. Me too. But Omaha get to celebrate Bud Crawford on Saturday, which was fantastic, and they will continue to celebrate Bud Crawford. Matt Rule got out to recruit a little bit, and he went to the Chicagoland area on Friday to see Trey Taylor, who's continues to do what he does. Taylor's such an interesting recruit, and there was some stuff going on in the Metro from a high school football perspective as well. So busy weekend still for Nebraska, even though they didn't have a game.
Lots of blowouts in the Metro from a high school football perspective.
That's about the norm.
Yeah. So Rule went to Louisiana, to Ruston, Louisiana on Thursday night to see Ahmad Hudson. He's the top-rated tight end in the 2027 class and has been to Nebraska on a visit. The Huskers are fighting a difficult battle to land Ahmad Hudson. Got Alabama and all of the SEC programs, and the fact that he lives in Louisiana makes that an especially difficult pull. So when Matt Rule has his first opportunity in season this year to go on the road, he chose to go see Ahmad Hudson, and that tells you a little bit about what the Huskers think about that 2027 prospect. Keith Williams, Nebraska's player personnel director and key recruiting figure, was along for the ride with Rule in Louisiana. And then you mentioned the 2027 QB commit on Friday night at Carmel Catholic in Chicago. So Nebraska did add a 27 commit to its class on Friday, wide receiver Jabari Watkins of Thomasville, Georgia. So that's 4 committed for that class. You got Taylor, Watkins, and then the 2 Omaha kids, Torrey Pittman of Central High and Matt Erickson of Millard North, the offensive lineman. Pittman is a defensive back and wide receiver, just an all-around athlete.
Fantastic. Yeah. So hopefully we can get less and less blowouts in the metro area in high school football. We don't have to go on that diatribe, but it ain't looking good for that. So
big win for Central, though. Your alma mater beat Westside, one of the teams that's normally blowing opponents out. So congrats to the Eagles and Torrey Pittman for that.
I'll get a chance to see him. I got him on TV this Friday. I'm doing your view with Gary Sharp on Friday. So Central
nice.
Prep will be on for that. So I'll be out doing some high school football.
See, that won't be a blowout. There's a few a few out there that play competitive games, but it's a stark landscape. So pick your games wisely if you want to avoid the running clock in the second half. So
Matt Rule, we'll talk on Monday to get ready for Michigan State as Nebraska comes off their bye week and they go into this second chunk of the season, an important one, as we've talked about. What's the story for you as we embark on this week, Mitch? I mean, there was a lot of doom and gloom last week coming off of Michigan. Maybe now that there's a week of clearance from it, people have sort of taken a deep breath and said, all right, maybe it's not so bad after all.
A lot of doom and gloom with the way that Nebraska performed in the trenches against the Wolverines. A lot of just unnecessary noise with the Dylan Raiola conversations about the Patrick Mahomes comparisons. Continue to see that bubbling to the surface, like new members of the national media who apparently had not noticed that was going on chimed in over the weekend. And Nebraska fans, my vow is just not to get involved anymore. And I think Nebraska fans should probably, well, I'm not going to tell them what to do. You want to chew on that bone, go right ahead. Huskers are 11.5-point favorite against Michigan State, according to FanDuel in the line that came out on Sunday. It's a little higher than what I had expected. So this is going to be, I think, a topic this week too, is the importance of this game. And when you see it in Nebraska, they may not spend the entire week as a double-digit favorite. I see that one probably going down a little bit, but they'll be a 2-score favorite, I would think, on kickoff. So the Michigan game, for me, and I think for a lot of people, was the one that Nebraska needed to win to break through and earn that national respect that it's been seeking, to get that win against a ranked team and lose that talking point. This Michigan State game in some ways is even more important because this is one that Nebraska it's not more important, but it's of equal significance, but a different kind of significance. You could say there's more urgency because Nebraska has to win this one in order to avoid this year 3 rule rebuild going off the rails.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right? I mean,
a huge slide back.
You're 0-2 in the Big Ten. Isn't that kind of a disaster?
Yeah. And that, I guess that, it makes it sound like the season is a lost cause, and it might not be because there's still plenty of games left to play after that. But you're right. I mean, it would be a huge slide back. It would be a huge slide back, I think, for the program. Like, so I think, they'll have some things that they've attacked and addressed and thought about, in the bye week and which direction they want to head to it. I'm looking at some previous, because I'm cooking up something already for the week here. I think Nebraska's offense is going to get after Michigan State's defense this week. It's been a problem for them the entire year. So I was looking at all the
Michigan State.
Yes.
Bad defense.
Yes. I was looking at all the times where Nebraska has scored 40 or more points in conference. So I got 3 since 2019. The Maryland game that year, the Northwestern game in 21, and then the Wisconsin game last year. Will this week be the 4th in that period of time? I'm going to say yes.
That's an interesting thought. When you look at the matchup there, and Nebraska does match up well in that Michigan State struggles to defend the pass, and that's obviously Nebraska's strength offensively. I would like to get away from this conversation that we have weekly about matchups. I don't think that it's something that I was watching those games on Saturday night, and I was talking to Zach, my 14-year-old, and I said, because we had it on the split screen on YouTube TV, and we kept going back and forth, is this a big possession for Alabama or for Oregon here? And we turned the audio over to that one. And I said, if we're doing this again on New Year's Eve and watching these 4 teams play, I realize it won't be a split screen because they don't play the semifinals at the same time. But if these are the 4 teams in the semifinals, I'm not going to be all that shocked. We were in agreement. Like, if you told us now that these are the 2 games that are going to go on in the CFP semifinals, you'd be like, yeah, that's not crazy. And the thing about when you watch those teams play that you don't hear addressed a whole lot is, ooh, that's a bad matchup for Georgia, or that's a bad matchup for Penn State, like that specific aspect of the game. And I feel like we talk about that a lot with Nebraska, like, oh, the Cincinnati defense, they play this shell scheme, and that's not great for Nebraska. Or Bryce Underwood and the Michigan offensive line, like that doesn't match up well with Nebraska. Like, if you're a legit program, like a legit top 25 program, you play football, and the matchups and all that stuff, it doesn't matter. So I'd kind of like to get away from that I kind of like to see Nebraska get away from that as it progresses through these next 8 games.
I don't know. This teams though, Mitch, like those teams are,
but it's applicable this week.
Yeah, those teams are complete though. Like, and the reason why we talk about it with Nebraska is because they're not, right. They
exactly
they have flaws just like everybody else that's in their realm, in their circle, in their posse.
I'd like to see Nebraska become a complete team overnight.
There you go. Yeah. And that's maybe that's something that happens throughout the remainder of the year. But right now, I don't believe that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of complete teams and incomplete teams, let's take a break and come back and address those things that we saw over the weekend. Those moments where we said, did that actually happen in a college football game? That is coming up next. Right now, though, a message from Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo. This is formerly known as Open Phone. You've heard us talk about Open Phone before. Well, now we're talking about Quo. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard us discuss, just with a new name, and here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that can keep you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or your computer. So no more carrying 2 phones, one in your pocket, one on your belt, whatever, one on your desk. No more relying on a landline. If people still do that, this is a built-in AI agent. It's a game changer. It can answer calls after hours, capture leads, keep businesses moving forward even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's quo.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
And a word from our friends at FanDuel. Yes, we are rocking and rolling almost through another week in the NFL. If you want to take a look at what's going on for Monday night, that's an option for you. And I have an offer for you. That's right. It's doubleheader on Monday night, which is fantastic. I have a can't miss offer for you. New customers, bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So imagine that, $300 to just play around with and spread around anywhere you'd like to for this Monday night doubleheader, or as we get closer and closer to week 5 in the NFL, or yet another week of college football. It's all there for you. Same game parlays, live betting, season-long stuff as well. Hell, Major League Baseball playoffs are starting up on Tuesday. Can you believe it? Are you ready to roll? It's time. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet today.
All right, let's finish the week by going back to Saturday on the gridiron. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. Did you see, and I have a number of these things that I want to ask you if you saw and then what you thought about them. First of all, Dan Lanning and Kurt Signetti, they like to gamble. They don't like to punt. They don't like to kick field goals. They just like to go for it on 4th down. And they're going to play. They're not going to play. They're going to coach against each other a week from Saturday in Eugene, Oregon. I'm already excited for that game. I believe both those teams are off this week. So that is a huge, huge game on the week 7 schedule.
Well, you know, it's amazing. Dan Lanning was facing the reverse Dan Lanning.
Mm-hmm.
James Franklin is the most conservative coach in college football. So much so that it's difficult to tell whether his quarterback, who has first round grades from a lot of NFL people, Drew Aller, it's hard to tell. Good? It's hard to tell if he's even good because they have the training wheels on him the entire time. And then when he does throw, it becomes really, really difficult for him. They're running 700 jet sweeps and all this different crap. They're putting in 4 different quarterbacks and wildcat situations. I mean, it is nauseating to me. Penn State does it every year, and they're the most conservative team on planet Earth, and they get beat in games like this because of it. And that's on you, James Franklin. So
he was getting, they were getting booed, if I'm not mistaken, by the 108,000 in dressed in all white at Beaver Stadium on Saturday night. And it was, you're right, because Penn State finally realized when Oregon got up 2 scores that we're going to have to score some touchdowns to win this game. And then they started moving the ball
immediately through a touchdown. Yeah.
So all around college football, and maybe it's just because I've been mainly watching Nebraska the first 4 games, all around college football. And we saw this from Matt Rule on the opening possession of the Michigan game and spent a lot of time talking about it. All of these coaches are rolling with the metrics and choosing to bypass punts and field goals on 4th down. It's not just Signetti and Lanning.
Yeah, and I think part of this is they see the conservative nature of a lot of these coaches in college football. Like if I had to, and the other thing with those guys in particular is that, like they're consistent about it, right? You don't want the inconsistencies. You don't want to be like, hey, we're a go for it on 4th down team, but we get to the 36-yard line and we're nursing a 7-point lead late or something like that. We're just going to punt it and try and pin them deep. No, you go for it. Again, you're Dan Campbell. You might seem crazy, but at least we're crazy all the time. So I think that's a really big part of it too. And you see coaches be inconsistent with their decision making, and you see coaches being really conservative. And a lot of times the aggressor wins. And I think that's probably, that's the non-analytical way to answer that question. And those guys win a lot of games.
Yeah, they actually called Dan Lanning by the name Dan Campbell at one point during the NBC broadcast on Saturday night. It was a Freudian slip, and the play-by-play man caught himself. Okay, quickly, we'll get to all four of these. Did you see Oregon wide receiver Jaden Limar get hit in the head by Penn State linebacker Amari Campbell during the Ducks' drive in OT? Straight head-to-head contact, no targeting because, are you ready for this? The linebacker hit the receiver, who was not a defensive player, with his forehead. The hairline is what the rules analyst said, and not the crown of the helmet. Even though it looked like Limar could have been seriously injured on the play. Fortunately, he did get up and walk away.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody was sitting there wondering, like, what's the difference, and what are we doing? If that's not targeting, then I don't know what is. I got I'm in a conversation with my my buddy who's a pretty decent high level college official, and he's like, "Yep, that's right. I mean, they make you had the slow-mo replay, and they make you decipher, like, is it the forehead or is it the crown, and who's defenseless and who's not, and all that stuff." I'm like, damn, I just didn't know it was that specific. But
yeah, so the rule is the problem, not the interpretation. The interpretation was
100%.
correct, but the rule itself is just so convoluted and bizarre. I think if you would have gotten hurt on the play, that they might have given the targeting, but who knows? That's very judgmental and subjective of me to assume that. Okay, did you see Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, after throwing a late touchdown to break a 13-13 tie, run 40 yards backwards with 3 seconds to play and take a safety as time expired?
I did. He could have sat down at the 25-yard line, and the game
run out of bounds.
But
run out of bounds and avoided even the possibility of the Iowa defensive back who was charging after him, stripping the ball out in the end zone. If he had fumbled and lost the game because of that, it would have been the wildest, craziest, stupidest ending in the history of the sport.
How much time, Mitch, do you think was? Like, how many actual seconds were there in which there were 0 seconds on the clock? Like, at least
about 3
5,
seconds,
right?
I think when he got to the 10 or the 12, maybe, there was plenty of time for him to slide and fall down, and he just kept running. The clock is at 000.
And now we got
running.
some gambling implications with this too. So yeah,
it did. Yeah, and I think when we picked the game, it was 7.5. So in that case, Iowa was covering regardless, but many people bet it at 6.5 or 7, Indiana favorite. And then it went from 7 to 5 with that safety. So to the point where Mendoza actually addressed it in the post-game press conference and apologized to the bettors and said, we like to take Indiana on the money line. Or he didn't say we like to take, but he said, we like Indiana on the money line every week. So that's not something that you normally hear from a college football player.
No, not at all.
Yeah. All right. Did you see Kentucky running back Seth McGowan celebrating a touchdown against South Carolina by chucking the ball from close range directly at the grandfather of the Gamecocks quarterback, Lenora Sellers, who was standing behind the end zone?
There's no way he could have known.
He didn't know.
There's no way he could have known. But I always do laugh at the touchdown celebrations when the players just huck the ball as hard as they can into the first row. And if it hits someone, it hits. If they die, they die. You know.
Yeah. Did Ndamukong Suh start that trend in 2008?
Yeah, Sue spiked it into the mantle of the earth. Well, he there's that like pad that they put on that wall. I think that was just for Sue, right? It used to be like,
if someone had been sitting there or standing there at that moment, they would have been decapitated by the ball. And thankfully, Sue was not throwing the ball and did not score the touchdown against South Carolina with Lenora Sellers' grandpa standing right underneath the goalposts in that area. So real nice work, Seth McGowan. I believe he apologized for that later.
He apologizes.
All right. And Did you see Alabama left tackle Caden Proctor take a screen pass from quarterback Ty Simpson for 11 yards down to the 2 to set up a touchdown late in the Tide's 24-21 win at Georgia?
Yes, this was one of the greatest pass plays I've ever seen. The only thing that would have made it better is if he would have scored.
He should have scored.
He nearly
should have just veered the other direction. They couldn't tackle him. He didn't get tackled. He just fell out of bounds.
Like he's got a 5, 7, 10-yard running start, which offensive linemen never have. Like I'm dead. Like if I'm a college football player and I'm a college football player, I think I'm a badass. I'm cool or whatever. Ain't no way. I am dodging. I am getting off the tracks when that dude is coming at me. No way.
One of the Georgia DBs dove at his legs and missed, and I think he missed on purpose because he didn't want to make contact with Caden Proctor going at that speed. He's 6'7", 366 pounds. This is the former 5-star signee from Des Moines, and who famously transferred to Iowa for like a week and then went back to Alabama. Future first-round pick. 6'7", 366. So the Alabama wide receivers who were blocking for him on that run, Ryan Williams is one of those wide receivers. He weighs less than half of what Caden Proctor weighs. Caden Proctor outweighs Ryan Williams by 188 pounds.
It's great if you just invert it. This is Ryan Grubb's in his bag. Like what if we had the skinny guy block and the fat guy catch it?
However mad people were in Alabama at Kalen DeBoer for losing to Florida State in week 1, they should be 100% happy. It should be a 180-degree turn. They should be ponying up more money to sign him to an extension just because of that play. Not because he beat Georgia. That's great. Alabama always beats Georgia, but in the regular season or whenever they play. I saw a stat. And it's like, it surprised me because I feel like Georgia's had some success in that series, but apparently not in recent years. So anyway, Alabama's back in the conversation for the college football playoff. Their demise was greatly exaggerated, and Caden Proctor needs to run the ball more.
Yes, please give it to him all the time. All right. It was a fun weekend of college football. Now we're back to the daily grind. Rule will speak on Monday at his press conference, and coordinators and Nebraska will get ready for Michigan State on Saturday. That's it for us. It's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff. It is rolling each Thursday only on Fire TV.